20 years ago, the Microsoft released the Windows 98. The Windows 98 bring a lot of changes in the PC world, the internet browsing, better graphics, gaming and more. Because of 20 years anniversary, I decided to build a PC which is running the Windows 98 and using PC parts from the late 90s. I used the Windows 98 a long time ago, but this is my first PC build which is running the Windows 98. The most difficult part was collecting the PC parts, because this is pretty old hardware, it's 20 years old, and it's hard to find functional PC parts. Actually, takes over 2 months until I collect all parts that I need. But however, isn't impossible, and I found some parts that will do the job. First, I'm going to show which PC parts did I use to build this computer, and after we're going to move on, installing the Windows 98, testing and some games. Okay, let's dig in. Now let's back in the year 1998, and the first part on the list is the motherboard. The motherboard is a Trend 6240. Made in 1998. This is Slug, or also known as Slot 1 motherboard. The Slug or the Slot 1 means the CPU is placed on a slot, which means installing the CPU is same like installing the RAM, the GPU or some other PCI Express component. Also this motherboard support Celeron, Pentium II and Pentium III CPUs and support maximum 1 GB of SDRAM. The CPU is Intel Pentium II, running at 450 MHz. Mostly, these Pentium II CPUs are covered with a cooling shield, but this one is looking pretty strange. I mean, the CPU is without the shield and it has one cooling fan only. But however, the CPU is fully functional. As RAM, I have 4 models SDRAM, running at 100 MHz. And 512 MB in total. Actually got 2 models with 64 MB, 1 model with 128 MB and 1 model with 256 MB. The video card is NVidia MX400, or also known as GeForce 2, with 64 MB of video memory, 128-bit memory interface and DirectX 7.1 support. The GeForce 2 is a little bit newer from the CPU and the motherboard. These video cards are released in the year 2000, but however, the GeForce 2 is working great under the Windows 98. In this build also I used the sound card. The sound card is ALS 4000. I'm not really sure about the manufacture date, but this sound card is compatible with Windows 98. And the drivers are still available on the manufacturer's website. For the internet connection, I'm going to use a Realtek LAN card. The Windows 98 is pretty old, but you can still connect to the internet. Maybe you can't access to all web pages, but the internet is still working. As hard disk, I'm going to use a 40 GB Western Digital with ID connection. This is a little bit newer hard disk. I mean, it's manufactured in 2002, but I use it because this was the only ID disk which I found in a fully functional condition and without bad sectors. As optical device, I'm going to use the Pioneer rewritable CD-DVD-ROM. This CD-DVD-ROM is made in the late 90s, and in that time it was one of the best optical devices. This PC build won't be complete without using a 3.5-inch floppy disk drive. The floppy drive basically is useless now, but I'm going to use it to check my old floppy diskettes. To connect the CD-DVD-ROM, the hard disk and the floppy drive, I'm going to use ID cables. The floppy disk use 34-pin connection and the CD-ROM and the hard disk are using 40-pin connection. The next part on the list is the power supply. As power supply, I will use a 300-watt power supply but a little bit newer power supply, because the older power supplies are not really recommended to use. They are old, maybe in a bad condition, which actually can damage the entire system. As PC case, I'm going to use this old PC case, which is made in the late 90s. I'm not sure which model is, I mean manufacturer, but I know that these PC cases are known as Snow White. But after 20 years, it's more like 3000K warm. As monitor, I will going to use this Samsung LCD with 1280 x 1024 resolution. This monitor is a little bit newer, but is the only monitor which I have with VGA connection. And the final parts are the keyboard and the mouse. As keyboard, I'm going to use the Ain Pro mechanical keyboard, but using the USB connection, and as mouse, I'm going to use a USB Cooler Master mouse. I really tried to find some old keyboard and mouse, but everything which I found was out of function for a pretty long time. Now it's time to build this computer. Building the computers is nothing new for me, and everything here is very familiar. Basically, everything is the same like building a brand new but budget PC.
I tried this a million times, oh no, to get this off my mind, yeah. Sometimes I feel real low, oh no, I'm not gonna lie, oh no, yeah, I tried this a million times, oh no.
After I mount all parts and connect it together, it's time to power on the computer and check it is everything working good. And everything is working well. Now it's time to install the Windows 98. Previously, I have used the Windows 98, I mean a long time ago, but this is my first time to install the Windows 98. Basically, the installing process is very simple and very similar like installing the Windows XP. Just installing the Windows 98 takes a little bit longer. And finally, the Windows 98 is successfully installed. But now it's time to install the drivers. Previously, I downloaded the motherboard, the video card, the sound card and the LAN card drivers, and I burn it on a CD, because I want to make the installing process simpler. After I install the drivers, I start to play around the Windows 98 to check is everything okay, and everything is working well. Except the basic stuff, I mean installing the drivers, I install the Mozilla version 2 browser, which is one of the oldest releases from Mozilla. I choose Mozilla because he is the only browser which allows me to open web pages like YouTube and others. The web pages are loading slower. In the most of cases, you will see images and videos on a page, but the only bad thing is you can't play the videos. The basic apps in Windows 98 are still working well, but also you can install older softwares which are compatible with Windows 98. Now it's time to install some of my favorite games that I played in Windows 98 in the late 90s. The first game is Cadillac and Dinosaurs, and this is one of my favorite arcade games. The game is very addictive. At the first look, everything is looking easy, but the gameplay it can be very difficult. In this game you can choose between 4 different players, and up to 3 players can play at once. The game story starts on East Coast in the 26th century. In the game you fight against a gang called Black Marketers. They hunting dinosaurs and they attack villages and peoples. And your mission is to kick all gang members, including their bosses. The next game on the list is the Metal Slug. This is real run and gun game, and if you want great action games, then you should definitely try this game. The game's story is placed in the future, in the year 2028. In the game you fight against the evil General Mordin and his army. Every stage in the game is full with different weapons, including tanks, aircrafts and other vehicles. And at the end of every stage you will fight against boss, which is larger, powerful and together with the regular enemies. You can play this game with 2 players maximum, and this game has 8 series in total. Actually, this is Metal Slug 1, and this game is available up to Metal Slug 7 and X, which in total makes 8 different series. The next game on the list is the Quake Free Arena. The game story is placed somewhere in the future, where the greatest warriors of all time are fighting for the amusement of the race called the Bodyguard in the arena Eternal. The Quake Free Arena is a first-person shooter and it's real action. Except that you have a lot of weapons around, mostly some futuristic, the game is very fast. I mean, everything is very fast. The battle, the players, the shooting and everything around.
Tied for the lead. You have taken the lead.
And the last game in this video is the Half-Life. The Half-Life is a science fiction first-person shooter video game. This game will take you on a different and a long journey. You starting on the Earth and you will finish on some alien planet. Except action, the game is full of puzzles and full with unpredictable creatures that try to surprise you and scare you. Except action and scary scenes, the Half-Life is extremely long game. If you're going to start to play this game, then you will be busy for a pretty long time. But if you already played this game, then you know for what I'm talking about. And basically, this is all about this Windows 98 PC. It's a pretty old computer, but it's still good to play around. You can use some retro apps and play some older but great games. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope this video will give you an idea and inspiration to make your old computer functional again. Thanks for watching guys, and see you in the next one.